So I did a TikTok. It was somebody else's soundbite about, put a finger down for all the reasons that you would get a lobotomy in the 1930s. And of course, I know a bit about it because I'm a dork and I like learning about history, especially like fucked up history. But I wanted to do a little deeper dive, so I couldn't help myself. So if you want fun facts about lobotomies, stay tuned. Firstly, what is a lobotomy? Lobotomy is a surgery of the brain that severs the main ties between the frontal lobe and other portions, usually the thalamus. The thalamus is the part of the brain that controls sensory and motor signals. The lobotomy was invented for patients with schizophrenia at the time. It was invented in 1891 by a Swiss psychiatrist named Gottlieb Burckhardt. And initially it was rejected by the medical community because, it's kind of rough. But Burckhardt's lobotomies were not meant to be a cure. They were meant to be palliative. They were meant to be like a last-ditch effort. Every other avenue had been tried and failed, and if the patient gets to a certain point, that's when he would institute the lobotomy. In Europe in the 1930s, lobotomies became popular again. These neurologists, Antonio Moriz and Almeida Lima, developed the leucotomy method, and that was basically, instead of removing portions of the brain, it was going in and severing the pathways between one lobe and the other. They loved it. Everybody loved it. There was no proof that it worked, but boy, was it making people quiet, and that's nice. Come the 1940s in North America, and lobotomies are popping. This neurologist, Walter Freeman, told everybody that this was the miracle cure. Even the medical community was going, I don't know about this. And he goes, no, I got you. Lobotomies, handle. Freeman had a theory that schizophrenia came from cyclical thinking, overthinking and going through that cycle and not being able to come out of it. And he theorized that the lobotomy would stop that, which in most cases it did, sometimes fatally. He initially was using the drilling a hole in the skull so they could access it that way. But then they came up with a better idea that you can get it done, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, less than 10 minutes, get a good lobotomy going. That was through using a tool similar to an ice pick through the eye socket. Get it done. And it was great, I guess. You don't need a sterile environment. You can make house calls, deliver a lobotomy. He was known to be equal parts physician and showman. He traveled the whole country performing lobotomies, teaching people how to do them. This guy, from the 1940s to the late 1960s, performed and or supervised over 3,500 lobotomies. That's quite a few. Even though it was designed for patients with schizophrenia, it was said that it was performed majority on women because we are a problem. They did this survey that between 1947 and 1954 of this one hospital, there were about 245 lobotomies that were done. 84% of them were done on women, despite the fact that the majority of the patients in that hospital were men, and the majority of patients with schizophrenia in that hospital were men. Out of his roughly 3,500 lobotomies that he performed or oversaw, about 490 of them did not survive. In 1967, Freeman performed his last lobotomy. It was his third attempt on this woman named Helen Mortensen, and she passed away shortly thereafter from a brain hemorrhage. He was never allowed to perform them again. Thank God. Go back and watch the other video or listen to that sound clip, and it'll tell you a lot of the reasons why lobotomies were performed. Anxiety, depression, hallucinations, delusions, just being a little too tired. But it also covered things like a woman's apathy towards children, maybe not wanting to have children, or not being as engaged in childcare as they think that they should be. If you were homosexual, yeah, lobotomy. Intellectual disabilities, ADHD, autism, dyslexia, anything like that, for sure. Criminals were often lobotomized, thinking that that would cure their criminal nature. The aftermath of the lobotomy was rarely good. Oh, there was a small chunk of people that survived and it helped and they saw a, release in tension and less agitation, but a good chunk of people did not survive or were left in a sort of zombie-like state, completely apathetic, not able to really communicate on the same emotional level that the average person can. It left a lot of people severely damaged. Overall, would not recommend. Not great. Bad results. Way more cons than pros. So, I don't know. There you go. Fun facts about lobotomies. Good times. And yes, I would have definitely been lobotomized. That is a guarantee. I fit way too many of those little categories. And you do too, most likely. Especially if you got tits. Love your face.